You know that feeling, right? That sense that time is running out, that a deadline is rushing towards you? Well, today we're taking that feeling and scaling it up, way up, to the global level. We're going to talk about this idea of closing windows, not just for us, but for entire nations, for leaders trying to hold on to power, and even for the world's most powerful and secretive people.
So here's the big question. Are these windows of opportunity really closing all around us? And if you look at the analysis we're digging into today, the answer seems to be a pretty clear yes. From military plans to personal freedom, these windows are slamming shut, and maybe faster than we realize. We're going to break this down by looking at three really distinct areas.
First up, we'll see how a closing window can completely stop a country's military plans right in their tracks.
Then, we're going to look at how those very same pressures create a closing window for everyday people who are just trying to find a better life.
And finally, we'll dive into how the windows that once shielded the secrets of the powerful are now being smashed wide open.
Okay, so let's kick things off with our first case study. The sources are pointing to this really fascinating shift in Beijing's thinking about Taiwan. But what's driving it isn't what you'd probably guess. It has less to do with new weapons and more to do with cold, hard cash, or the lack of it.
And here is where you can really see it. Just look at the change in language from the Taiwan Work Conference in February 2026. All that fiery talk about advancing reunification has kind of disappeared. Now it's all about softer things like peaceful development. So what's the analysis say? Well, it suggests this isn't some sudden change of heart. It's a strategic retreat. They're moving from playing offense to just managing risk.
So, why the big change in tone? The analysis points to incredible pressure back home. And this number, 46%, is a huge part of the story. That's the debt held by local governments, and it's now almost half of the country's entire economic output for a year. I mean, that is just a massive weight on the economy. You throw in a struggling property market and shaky consumer confidence, and you can start to see why Beijing might be tapping the brakes.
This really brings us to the core of the issue, and this quote from the source material just nails it. The harsh economic reality is that Beijing's window for a huge, expensive military operation is, for now, pretty much closed. So they're shifting to what's being called strategic patience. But remember, that kind of economic pain doesn't just stay at the top, it flows all the way down.
Yeah, these huge economic problems aren't just abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. For millions of Chinese families, they're creating a totally different kind of closing window, a window on their own hopes and opportunities.
To really get what's going on, you have to understand this concept, Ren. The source material describes it as the basic survival mode for so many people. When the rules can change on a dime and you don't have powerful connections, your main strategy is just to endure it, to tolerate it, to kind of swallow your frustrations and just keep going.
And this, right here, gets to the very heart of it. When your only real move is to endure, and it feels like the whole system is set up to benefit the powerful, well, that window of opportunity for a stable, predictable life for you and your kids starts to feel like it's closing for good. And that is the kind of pressure that makes people start looking for a way out.
Okay, so while citizens in one part of the world feel their own windows closing, something totally different is happening in the West. A very different kind of window is being forced open. One that, for decades, protected a whole world of elite impunity. And it's all centered around one infamous name, Jeffrey Epstein.
This whole saga has been going on for decades. It started with a secret sweetheart deal back in 2008 that kept him and his powerful friends out of trouble. Then came his death in 2019. But the story was far from over, because in 2026, a new transparency law forced the release of millions of pages of documents, finally dragging his entire network out into the daylight. But, and this is a really important point the sources make, we have to be super careful about what this evidence actually proves. For example, flight logs show someone was on his plane, but not what they did. His black book shows he knew a lot of people, but that doesn't mean they were all complicit. So yes, the window of secrecy is shattered, but the analysis is clear. Seeing a name on a list isn't the same thing as proof of guilt.
So, just as all these secrets are coming to light in the West, back in China, another closing window is revealing something else. Just how fragile absolute power can be. This time, it's the window of trust, and it's closing in on the leader himself, Xi Jinping. The source material brings up this really powerful historical comparison to explain the recent purge of a top general, Zhang Yusha. It's called the Lin Biao effect. See, Lin Biao was Mao's right-hand man, his chosen successor,
right up until he became so powerful that Mao started seeing him as a threat. It's a pattern that repeats itself. In a system with one person at the top, your most powerful ally can very quickly become your biggest fear.
And this table? Wow, it just lays out the devastating results. Take a look at this list. Out of the 7 men Xi put in his top military command after the big 20th Party Congress, only 2 are still there. 5 of them are gone, purged, under investigation, or their status is just a big question mark. The very group of people meant to secure his power has been completely gutted. So let's step back for a second. What happens when all of these different windows are slamming shut at the same time? A country's window for war, a person's window for a better life, an elite's window of secrecy, a leader's window of trust. What kind of world does that create?
Well, the first thing is that power becomes brittle. When a leader gets rid of everyone in their inner circle, sure, they get rid of anyone who might disagree with them, but they also get rid of experience, different perspectives, and honest advice. What you're left with is a system that looks really strong from the outside, but is actually incredibly fragile.
Second, trust just evaporates. Inside a country, people start to feel like the game is rigged. And between countries, suspicion takes over where cooperation used to be. The basic foundation for a stable world just starts to crumble. And all of this leads to maybe the most dangerous outcome of all. The risk of a catastrophic mistake gets a whole lot bigger. Leaders who are feeling the pressure, who are cut off from good advice, and who feel like their options are running out, they are much more likely to make a truly terrible decision.
And that leaves us with this final, crucial question. A closing window isn't just an end. It's a moment of intense, focused pressure. And that's the kind of pressure that can force new, totally unpredictable doors to fly open. And maybe, just maybe, understanding that pressure is the key to figuring out the turbulent world that's coming.